Hey, what is up, PTX fam? This is Shiblord here, joined by Bran and Adam up on stage with me to go over today, which, of course, if you guys have been around the Discord or on the Twitter side, you've seen that the XShares were released here a couple hours ago now, about 3 hours ago. So XShares are live. So this XShare is live sort of AMA here to go over each and everything with you guys in reference to them, how they're going to work, any questions that you guys might have. But also, of course, just to give you that AMA that we do once per week, generally speaking, to give you guys that outreach to the team and to answer any questions that might be on your mind in general. We've had a very, very busy last 7 days. All the different vaults went live last Wednesday, I believe, or Tuesday, I don't recall, one of the 2 days there. We have XShares live now. So a lot of the roadmap is built and going live here, just as we kind of laid out. Timelines, maybe here or there, it doesn't really matter. We got them live now, of course. So a lot of good things here that we're building towards each and every day, trying to get the different aspects of the ecosystem here going and killing it on every end. So lots of cool things happening there. Markets are getting trashed. I can go into all that as we kind of move along here in a little bit. I'll go into that stuff towards the end of why Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the rest of the markets are in a significant downswing here the last couple of days. So we'll go over all that stuff here. But before we get into all that, how are you guys doing here up on stage?
Yeah, not too bad. Thank you very much. Shib. A very nice and interesting day, to be fair. And a highly anticipated release of XShares. Very, very exciting to finally see that here. As you said, a few delays over the last couple of weeks, but hey ho, we're here now, and it was quite a strong release in my opinion. Nice and smooth. Nothing crazy and any issues. So it was nice to see everything finally roll out. So yeah, really excited.
Yeah, definitely agreed there, Bran. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's kind of the most important thing there. And we will post, I think we already have, actually, we do 100% already have the audit done. I actually downloaded this morning. We'll post the audit out. So the NFT contracts have already been audited. So more so today, we're just making sure that all the front end actually worked properly and we were ready to go. So yeah, very smooth launch, very thankful for that because they're not always that smooth, right? We've all been a part of launches where, for whatever happens, there's some sort of weird issue that just creates some substantial negatives, but we don't really have to deal with that here today. Fortunately, thank you and shout out to all the beta testers here who helped us kind of work through all those potential problems before they ever went live. So that is a very significant benefit to us and to the community to get those live very, very smoothly. So as we kind of mentioned there, the XShares are already live. So if you head over to our DApp at the ptxcrypto.com and you click on the DApp button, you're going to simply click on XShares and it'll bring you to our XShares DApp. And from there, you can mint it. It's a very, very simple system here. You can either press that little plus sign, you could type in a number, and then you just simply press mint. And it's 1 BNB each. Very easy to figure out what that cost ratio is, right? 1 per NFT. And even though the markets are going absolutely wild right now, just in a quick little test, let's see. I know gas was super low on them earlier. Yeah, we're looking at 0.0004026 BNB for gas right now, which is incredibly low. Very efficient contracts there, so that's a good thing. Sometimes, I'd never really know how that's going to look on the front end as well, so that's fantastic. Very low gas to get them minted, and we've had already a couple dozen minted, which is good. Good little start to this. It allows us to kind of work and get these things rolling here the next couple of weeks. So kind of to go over what we are working on with the NFTs as I've kind of gone into quite a bit here, but also said that in the announcement is these 2 weeks here. So between now and December 5th, it's going to be a little bit of an accumulation phase, right? So since these are a revenue share model, this isn't a direct, the kind of old Ponzi economic strategy where I need people to be investing for me to pay you guys back for the NFTs. We didn't define a daily APR, APY. We didn't define anything like that because it is legitimately a revenue share model. So as we've kind of gone into quite significantly, but you'll get that 4% from the sales tax that goes directly to the NFT holders. 100% of that 4% goes back as profit to the rewards system of the NFTs. And then you have a trading mechanic to that, right? And that's going to be the two elements we're working with now. Of that, 50% of the profits go directly to rewards. 30% of it goes towards compounding back into the bots and toward the actual trading aspect to help it become a more accumulated profit margin over time. Then you have 10% going to direct support of the PTX token via a combination of an LP support and or buybacks. That'll be just kind of, team discretion, honestly, of what we'll be doing, when we'll be doing it. But that 10% defined will be it'll be totally used for that PTX token. And then 10% of it will go to the treasury. That's just to keep that money flow going in to the system, of course. And just to get that out of the way here, there's been no team allocation of these mints. There's nothing going on like that. 100% of the minted BNB is going right towards those mechanics that I just listed. It's not anything weird or anything like that there. 100% of the mint BNB is going back into the system that I just laid out there. So that's how we can kind of say, hey, this is a genuine revenue share model because we are looking to just help you guys out by giving that 100% benefit, which is the ethical and proper thing to do for a revenue share model, in my humble opinion. So those things are live here, and they're going to be live pretty much indefinitely, right? We have 5,000 that can totally be minted at any given time. We can start opening up different tiers over time as well, but ideally, we don't want these to be able to be traded on the open markets, like the open seas and stuff like that, until all of those 5,000 are minted. Why do I want to do that? Is because if let's say we reduce it, but at this point, that's not in discussion. But if we let them be listed on open marketplaces and they start getting undercut, as in they're sold for 0.5 BNB, then we're trying to bring in a value level that is not necessarily appropriate to the value of the NFTs themselves. So we have to be a little bit cautious with all that there, try to keep them on our internal platform as much as possible to get them working and to really accumulate something that could be worked on and ran upon for the time to come, for a very long period of time, of course. So a little bit of talking there, a little bit of, I guess, maybe brambling, as Bram would like to say, on his end. But yeah, it's been a pretty busy week. Feel like, maybe I get a couple gray hairs, but that's a good thing, getting that grind on as always. So I definitely appreciate all that going on our end as well.
That's it. Yeah, I think it's a really good start. I mean, the last couple of weeks have been really, really important. I mean, look, we can always look at this from two situations, right? If everything was on schedule and everything was, sunshine and roses and launched on the 1st, would we be in a better position? Yes, let's be honest, we would. However, we're here now. Over the last couple of weeks, we've had the X vaults, which are unbelievably going well. We're currently sitting at 13.6 million PTX in the 12-month vaults. So why is this good? And a lot of people said to me the other day, hey, Bran, I mean, the maths work out at certain, if you lock your PTX for a certain time over, 12 months, you'll actually make more than locking it in other vaults. And that may be true. But one of the things people are forgetting is that when we were previously had the 1.77%, there was no tax. People weren't losing any tokens to withdraw. Now, what you have to understand is that, yes, in 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6 months, that vault percent will outweigh the other vaults, as in sort of how much people earn after tax, yada, yada, yada. But now we've actually introduced some sort of tax to withdraw if you withdraw early. That 13.6 million that's in there will always be valued now at half until that 12-month period is over. Now, what I mean valued by half, I don't mean people are losing money or anything, but what I mean is that the emissions that would have come before is now actually having half the effect that they would have without the vault, if people decide to withdraw early. So always a good thing. It's helping a lot regarding emissions. I mean, we've got 17 million tokens in the weekly vault. And then we have about 7 million tokens spread between the monthly, 3 monthly, and 6 monthly vaults as well. So we're starting to see a little bit more of people spread out from the weekly vaults. And I'm sure that over time, when we start adding further incentives, we'll be able to get more people to spread out from the weekly and move over to the higher APR vaults, which will soon have a larger impact. Once we get out of that stage where we can finally upgrade NFTs or integrate something for the burns or integrate something for PTX. Oh, my apologies. That'll further stimulate burns. We've then got more and more reasons why, hey, you've got XShares, you've got PUSD, you've got all these parts of the ecosystem that are now working together. And yeah, I think we're at a really good point. As I said, preambling, but we were at a point where, hey, we had, a few delays. It is where it is. But what we can do is work from here now and build upon it, add incentives, add, more and more to the ecosystem and just expand rather than waiting to release, if you know what I mean.
Yep, it's kind of a good explanation there. Is hey, this is just a piece of the puzzle here as we're working towards quite a bit of different things that are happening. Not just within PTX, but just in DeFi in general. So a lot of big things happening. We plan on just continuing to build and grow and develop. And in this case, kind of what I mentioned last week was we're trying to really refine and focus on the elements that we already have live currently now, between the vaults, between the NFTs, between just this ecosystem in general. And then we can kind of start expanding that into the future. But these need to be working a little bit more efficiently and a little bit better as we start moving along. I think there is some opportunity to grow into each of these elements, including the vaults as well as the NFTs over time. I have some little timelines and thoughts in mind to try to build them up as we start getting into the next couple of months here. So lots of good things that I kind of look forward to working towards and see if we can get some different things going that maybe we don't already have and make it a little bit more incentivized for those who are actually using the system and using it appropriately. So lots of good things that we're going to build on there. Let's see, we do have some questions. I kind of desperately want to go into why the markets are in turmoil, but that's okay. I think we can answer some questions. First, if you guys do have any questions here, please simply request to speak live during this AMA or post away in the AMA questions channel, and we will answer your questions for you live on this AMA. So let's see what we got going on here while we are hanging out. Let's see.
Yeah, so we have one question, and I'm actually happy to answer the question itself. So, OX Clown, he just had a question. It was sort of like, I've not noticed it happen much yet, but some people have certainly sold the PTX token to mint X shares. What can we do to incentivize holding tokens and buying the NFTs instead of selling the tokens to buy NFTs? Do you think this will average out over time, especially as upgrades come closer? Right, so there's 2 points I really want to address on this. Is one, incentives, and two, having different parts of the ecosystem, it's pretty natural that people will sell one aspect for the other. It's not really something we can control to a crazy degree. Now, when you talk incentives, if you've not noticed, we've scaled back a lot on incentives, buy competitions and giveaways, yada yada yada. The reason being is because we're going to focus on more of a direct route of having a backing for the incentives rather than just giving extra tokens or things that are sort of hindering the protocol. Now, I'm not saying that everything we've done's, ruined or anything, but what we're saying is, I think from our end, is that we're at an extremely important time where we need to sort of be careful and, just be a little bit more, not stingy or anything, but we need to make sure that there's actual backing and actual, things in place to support being able to offer the incentives. Now, we saw this amazing run up towards the 1st of November, and we had an extremely, extremely good runway for the original XShares launch and the original, Vaults launch. But it is where it is. Now, the situation we had there was we did have a lot of events, giving away legendaries, giving away tokens, incentives to buy. And what we did, we timed that perfectly for the releases we had. Now, unfortunately, because we gave away legendaries and because we gave away extra tokens, it sort of limits us what we can do now, because we're not going to put the protocol at jeopardy or risk there being, more dumps, or risk there not being able to be enough core NFTs that people can earn rewards from. So we do need to sort of be more and more careful. And it's not that we can't afford to do it, or it's not that we, don't want to do it. But I think we're at a point in the protocol where it's very, very vital that we focus more on backing incentives with full sort of, you know, reasoning behind it, rather than just saying, hey, let's add an incentive just to stop people doing this or doing this. Because I feel like, yes, sometimes these incentives do help, but I also feel like in the long term it's just a sort of a hindrance. So I think, speaking on, Shib can touch on this as well, but from my point of view, I feel like any incentives we release, whether that be for vaults or for XSHARES or for anything like that, I feel like we're going to have a lot more backing and a lot more reasoning behind them, and a lot more bullishness behind the reasons or what we actually decide to do. And by that, I mean not just saying, hey, you can get an extra, free bit of tokens, but actually have some core value behind it. Shib, have you got anything to touch base on that with?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it there. You guys kind of know so there's a few different things going on within the markets, right? So if you look back, at this point, I guess probably like the April timeline ish, giveaways were incredibly beneficial for DeFi projects because they've really engaged the communities, but there also wasn't an environment where people were willing and going to sell literally any token that they get. I've seen projects where people are literally selling to the point that they're either net negative or zero with gas fees. It's kind of crazy right now in DeFi where it's just dragged on this bear market for so long that giveaways done very strategically can still help, but you can't keep doing them. And the fact that we did kind of throw our burners out a little bit going into November 1st, hey, it is what it is. We can't really go back and change time. I'm not going to sit here and cry about it, right? We just did what we did there. And it probably would have gone pretty cool, but it didn't. So then we just got to keep moving, keep grinding, and go right from here where we are today. And that's kind of the mindset that we've all had here, is you can't look at yesterday because yesterday is no longer relevant. Quite frankly, a minute ago was no longer relevant, right? We just got to keep building, keep growing from there. So there's quite a bit that we can do here to still kind of have that go on. But while we are doing that little bit of conversation, if you guys had not noticed, the markets have been diving straight down for the last couple of days, right? So this isn't something where it's just crypto sentiment. Allegedly, during this FTX collapse, there was a hacker that got into the FTX funds and drained a very, very substantial amount of Ethereum. I think like 130,000 maybe. Somewhere along the lines of $477 million worth of Ethereum were stolen out of that those FTX locked funds. From there, this alleged hacker has just obviously been dumping Ethereum and as well as other tokens pretty steadily since I think it was Saturday morning, maybe Sunday morning. So the markets are taking big hits, not just from that action itself, but also fear in of that they can dump another X amount of hundreds of millions, right? So you have a bad actor who can do some damage, but the consumer effect of that damage is more substantial than even his effect because people want to get out before that person dumps all, 477 million, right? That would make sense. Why would you hold it as it goes down with that sell-off? So it's kind of like a compounded effect in negatives. Now, the good news on this is the amount of Ethereum that was stolen prior to the Ethereum merger was about 1 to 2 weeks worth of Ethereum that was mined from the general community out there in the world, right? The difference is that 1 to 2 weeks of Ethereum being mined was not immediately being sold. Many people that were mining ETH were keeping it for long-term purposes. So good news is that it's not going to impact anything very long-term, I do not imagine, except for probably some regulations, which are a good thing. But the bad news is it's going to probably be a bloody week or two. And, I know Clown just posted there 15.8 is where Bitcoin is trading. I would not be surprised to see Ethereum go down to, let's say, 800 or so, and Bitcoin down to 12 or 13,000, because that's kind of where it's trending. And unless the fear changes, and that way could change very quickly, by the way, if they are able to stop this hacker from selling via some blacklist mechanism or some other way, seizure, locks, whatever the case might be. Most of this is being done on a centralized exchange. So I don't know why there isn't being able to be stopped there. But hey, I don't work for that high level of anything. Then if that were to happen, and then there that fear of this remaining X amount of hundreds of millions of Ethereum being sold on the market, then it could change back very quickly. We could see a quick turnaround in the markets to kind of recover for that emotional swap. Now, that being said, this also puts a little bit of a wrench in our mechanics, right? So things like trading normally, things like trade bots, very, very scary right now, because if they take a call via, TA or some other mechanics that they're built in, and this emotional reaction goes the other way, one way or the other, up or down, you're talking very, very quick damage that can happen instantaneously, right? So that does give me a little bit of a finger on my heart kind of thing, like don't really want to screw us over, of course. So that being said, I'm just monitoring it. If it levels out and there's some easy way to merge back into it, then great. But right now I can't be diving into the trades too heavily, because let's say it's a guarantee, to good to short, but then that other scenario that I just put out there happens and they lock up his funds. Well, we could see $16,000, $17,000, $18,000 Bitcoin again very quickly, and then that short is going to result in a very, very substantial loss, right? So you can kind of see how these things could be impacted so quickly, not by market trends, but by human trends, right? So different environmental elements that could occur. So that's a little nerve-wracking, but we got to keep things safe here. Kind of what Bram was mentioning, being a little bit more stable and steady with how we build also goes along to how we are putting this additional revenue into the system. As long as we're not losing money, in the next month or two, I think we're okay. Ideally, we'll gain a little bit here and there. I'll try to take some relatively stable and safe trades, work that up, try to gain, somewhere between 5 and 10% a month throughout this month and December. Let that kind of die down, hit full force back in January. My goal is to get PUSD live in the vaults by February to March, somewhere around that timeline. Please don't quote me on that. A lot of work needs to be done. It has to kind of go right for those to happen, but that's okay. Those are my goals there. But it really takes this community here via the economy as well to really push that into the right direction. So a lot of different elements that we're kind of battling against, I guess you could put it that, but I'm not going to allow us to be put at a long-term risk of, having to shut down or otherwise be destroyed just because the markets go a little south, right? So fortunately, we've kind of avoided some of it. Even like Freeway, we were going to put some money into the pre-sale. They went under. So we're glad we didn't do that, right? We didn't keep money on FTX. We didn't use the FTX trade bots, for example. So we've kind of been lucky so far. And right now it's just getting a little safe, trying to get, money off of the centralized exchanges, unless it's an active kind of trade situation. That's also key, right? Because next thing you know, what if one of them locks down again? So a lot of different elements that maybe the community doesn't think about that I'm out here, quite frankly, maybe stressing about a little bit in a good way, right? Because I don't want to put you guys at risk or the protocol at risk. So we're doing a lot here on our end to keep this thing growing, keep it building, which, not every project out there is trying to think that far ahead, right? We've seen so many big dogs go under because they kept all their money on FTX, and that sucks. And, you got to diversify even with your centralized exchanges, apparently, and really listen to the warning signs as they come up. So a lot of different things here that we're kind of working around within the internal side that I'm just giving you guys a little peek through the window about how we're working and keeping these things moving for you guys. I know, unfortunately, we are an inflationary token, right? So every time that I have to kind of pull back on what I think I can do trade-wise, we need to take a little bit of a step back so that we don't put everything at substantial amount of risk. Well, then, of course, that kind of adds some other elements of issues that could be brought up down the road that we then have to address. So a lot of different things here that we got to build up towards, and it's exciting and fun to kind of do it. So, I guess that's my rant, giving you guys a little peek inside inside these doors in the window here to see what we're all kind of doing on the back end, because we're not sitting on our hands. I'm putting in many and many hours every week to keep this thing going here and to keep it growing, whether the markets are good or bad. So that's where we are right now, and it's going. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, we have a couple of questions in here. Is there any incentive? We already touched base on incentives, Flappy. So we are going to look at adding incentives and things we can do to make them more desirable to buy. But we need to make sure there's obviously foundations behind them. I've not. I mean, if you want to listen back to the recording, I don't want to repeat. I kind of went on for about 5 or so minutes. But if you want to listen back to the recording later, you'll hear a full 5-minute conversation on incentives. But we've already answered that. Now, Dishlicker sort of explained. He's got a question. My situation is slightly different. I'm trying to fund first aid training gear, etc. My question is simple. If I buy an NFT, what's the likely timeline to recoup the cost of NFTs? We'll check back later. So I'll touch base on this, and Shib, you can feel free to take it away. The difference between our NFTs and other sort. There's two types of things you can do, right? You could do actual revenue share, where there's not a quote unquote promised return, but a split of revenue, right? So what that means is you earn from profit. Instead of saying, hey guys, we can promise you a minimum of X amount a day, and then something happens where that X amount a day can't be provided, and then it goes into a situation where the product now can't run. So yes, we could overhype and promise a set amount of day, but the likelihood of us being able to stick to that long term is very, 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 very slim. Now, it all depends. It really does depend. With the mechanisms and the trading, sometimes you can have a month where you have 5% profit, or sometimes you can have a month where you have, 325% profit if you're extremely lucky. It really varies, and I think it will take a tiny while of gauging the market and gauging the profit to see what the actual returns will be. I don't expect there will be, crazy straight out the gate. But the good thing about the NFTs is we are going to work on adding more stuff to the NFTs, more reasons to buy the NFTs, more uses for the NFTs. So it's not just a, hey, pop and done, the NFTs are live, buy them. And that's it. We are going to be focused on continuously adding things and making sure we can bring more value to them as we always do. So, not too much of a worry there on our end. Things will happen. If we sat there and promised a set amount of percent a day, I'm sure Shib would lose his hair by the end of the week, and that's not something we want. So yeah, all in all, we can't give an exact how long it will take to ROI. It all really depends. Now, it will take a little while to actually get that sort of rough estimate of what people have been getting as a return. But as I said, the NFTs are, longer term, and they are sort of something we could build upon, future perks, and, whatever we decide to build down the line. Obviously, if you've got higher end NFTs, you're going to benefit from that as well. Another question, I'll take the lead and then I'll pass it on to Shib. A lot of questions are about the protocol and about ROI, but how are you guys feeling as a team at the moment? Have you been hit by the market? Thank you for asking, Floppy Flap. I really do appreciate that. Now, how do we feel as a team? I'll speak on myself personally. I'm really excited about the product we're releasing and how the roadmap is carrying out. Yes, we did get hit a bit mentally by the timelines and delays, and feel like we not hard done by, but I feel like there was a lot of, and this is just speaking honestly, there was a lot of things out of our control which has affected our project, but hasn't been our fault. And it's not just talking about from now, right? We can even go back to the pre-sale. If anyone, was here from the pre-sale, and we had them few issues with, disappearing developers, and then we had the projects that we paid for and, waited 8 weeks for, and they weren't built. It just feels like ever since the start, it's just been a constant issue with third parties. But having saying that, it is what it is. The market is what the market is, and the project is what the project is. At the end of the day, no matter how bad things get or how bad, something happens or whatever the case may be, we're still going to continue working. We're still going to be continuing to release and add to the roadmap, continue to, grow the project. Whether we have, mental hits from, people being upset, which we understand, things happen. It's all about thinking about the long term, thinking about growing towards that end goal, and going from there. Shiv, I'll pass it on to you after. It's sort of a similar question. What does the end product look like in your vision? I mean, we've got this plan, right, to have this full scale ecosystem and having the XSHARES thriving. It really depends on, what we want to add further to the protocol, right? There's so many things you can integrate with NFTs and integrate with, the tokenomics that we have now. But it's all about trying to be fresh and trying to bring something new to the table. And I think that's one of the difficult things in the market at the minute. I feel like there's a lot of similar tokens that are all diluted with the same sort of, roadmap. So, you've got the dexes, you've got the blockchains, you got whatever it may be. So I feel like we want to focus more on a unique route, but not too unique where it's like you're reinventing the wheel, because sometimes that's a bit risky, right? So I feel like once everything's finally settled into place, we're finally getting back into momentum and releasing products that are actually coming on time and actually having, it starts to help, and it starts to bring back that, positivity feeling, because it's very, on an honest level, it's very easy to get when you get knocked down, 4 or 5 times. Sometimes, it could take a toll, but we're here, we're striving. Sometimes things happen, but it's all about, hitting the nail on the head, whatever the saying is, chewing the nail or whatever it was, and getting on with it. So it is what it is. We're all doing good. We're still here. We're still thriving, and we're still going to carry on working as as normal. Shib.
Yeah, so that's a great thing there. So kind of like, how do I envision, the project to be, or the end product, right? So kind of what I'd love to have happening here is, we're talking right now. We're at the end of November. Like next, I'm not gonna say this is the end, quote unquote, but a year from now, I want to be paying, hundreds of thousands of dollars in PUSD rewards, literally monthly, right? So a lot of things have to happen to make this work, but I want to be able to have such efficiency with what we're doing that the treasury is making money, that there is even a surplus to put in reserves. So just in case, you can get more ability to leverage trades, that there's PUSD rewards going to the NFTs, to the vaults, that it's a real, not just like kind of basic passive income thing that can burn out over time, but it's a passive income in DeFi that grows over time. That's what my goal is here, and that's literally what our goal has been for the entirety of this project and this build, is say, hey, we've been running off of passive income. We want this to be sustainable. We want this to grow over time. Yeah, there definitely have been some bumps in the road, and that's okay with us. As far as our ability to work, we still are here wanting to work, wanting to grow it, wanting to build it, which is always great as a team, of course. And then we have a really solid community that I'd love to see 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times what it is now one day. I just want to keep growing this thing. I don't care if it takes a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. I don't really care how long it takes. We want to be here building, growing, developing, and at the end have a product that, the community not only enjoys to use, but that we as a team, really, really enjoy that we've built up for the community's purposes to really allow it to grow and expand over time. That's kind of my long-term vision of how things here are going to go. None of us came in here to get rich quick, and I've kind of talked about it to Sonny in the chats. If anything, I've definitely, I haven't. I'll just put it this way: I've not net made any money with ProtocolX. I've put a lot into the project, time and money wise, and I'm definitely not getting rich off of this, right? I really want to build this to be a long-term thing, not a couple month flip. So that's kind of my goal here, is to keep building, keep growing, keep making this a genuine business that people want to engage in. Bring the team with me, bring the mods with me, bring the community up along with us as well, and really just grow literally every element of this ecosystem until it's big and enjoyable, and it's really a highlight of the world. And then guess what? Then we can hit a bull market eventually, and next thing you know, we have the ability to say, hey, this is what we've done in quite a hard bear market, quite a brutal bear market. Get on board in this bull market. Let's make this even bigger and better. And then we're looking years down the road where we've just grown to a point of, ideally a lot of progress, right? So that's what we're doing here. We just want to build and grow. I'm not looking to turn this into anything crazy overnight. That's not how any of this is going to work for me. We just got to keep on the grind, keep building, keep growing. And if we do things the right way and do them properly, of course, ethically and also, economically and otherwise strategically, then we will eventually get to where we're trying to get to with here. And that's what I look forward to. And yes, shout out to my mic. I do have a pretty good mic here working with me. So shout out to that mic as well. Had to take a breather there. So yeah, that's let's see here. Trying to go through and make sure we did not miss any of the questions that we do have going on.
Yeah, so I think there is just one or two more. So yeah, Flap, we have looked into sort of some of them things. We should have a partnership coming quite soon in regards to sort of a raffle system or a lottery system, but there'll be more for that to come. Buy a better mic when we pay you 6K per day. Yeah, that was fun. Adam, it's not my phone. I just can't speak properly. Yeah, so sorry. Sorry, I got distracted there. Yeah, we've got a few partnerships for in regards to that. So hopefully we'll have some more information on that soon. And as for, would you look to invest part of the treasury into other projects to recover passive income, make that part of the revenue? I'll pass it to Shib. Shib, it does all the economic side.
Yeah, so that's a good question as well. I think that's not the best strategy in this type of market, because we really haven't seen very many new projects do very well for more than a couple weeks, right? So that's just where we are right now. What might be a better idea is as we start hitting that like February-ish timeline, when I kind of foresee probably the U.S. economy going into like a legitimate recession, where they actually admit that we're in a recession, even though we've been in a recession since Q2 of this year. But nevertheless, once they admit that, I think the housing market's going to take a hit. The economy is going to take a hit. There will be just the same or increased opportunity to start dollar cost averaging into some of the more legitimate tokens out there, right? So even something like Bitcoin, which right now is sub 16,000. There is going to be a time when it's back up to 20 to 25 to 30 to 40 to 50, etc. From there. So I'm not saying to drop $1 million into that at any moment, but it would just start making sense as we start getting through Q1 of 2023 to start identifying some of those longer term hodl sort of cryptos out there and really allowing that to kind of just create a backing to the system, right? So that's always good to have. Then you can show, different asset allocations and stuff like that there, where you're saying, hey, this is just what we've kind of, I guess, mitigated some risk elements to it, and maybe even get into some of the things that might be getting bigger. And then once we hit a bull market, ideally we have a good amount of money coming in with our revenue share systems in general, with our revenue generating systems rather, so that some of these projects that'll start coming out in the next bull market, you can really start vetting them and say, hey, this one has some real potential. they'll start opening up seed phases of their sales, and that's when we'd get in, 30,000, 40,000 bucks. Next thing you know, they pop off. That 30 or 40 is worth, one or 200 or 400 or whatever thousand. That's a good win, right? And then now, not only that, we don't just dump on them. Now we work with them and we grow with them over time, because that's kind of how supporting a younger project should go. So there's a lot of different things that we could start building towards. I don't think the time is quite yet into investing in even things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, BNB, stuff like that there, but it will get here pretty soon. And then after that, once we see a good recovery in the global economy, getting into those smaller market cap projects that have a chance of blowing up, ideally like what we will do over some time, kind of like how I previously described, right? Then getting into those would be beneficial, of course. And if really the way that works with in a bull market, I don't know if you guys were even around in the bull market. If you threw $1,000 into 10 different random, you just found them on Reddit projects, you might lose $9,000 because 9 of them are rugs, but then one of them does 100 times, and now you're up, another 91,000 just out of nowhere. So it is crazy when you get into a bull market of how some of these things work. So things like that you can start kind of playing with a little bit over time. I just don't think we're quite there yet. Even with the more resound projects out there, there's not really an opportunity to be developing revenue off of some of these projects out there, if that makes sense. All right, let's see here. Will there be a venture investment component to PTX? I kind of just answered that there, like with seed things. I think you have to get very big. If you actually want to be a VC, a venture capitalist, I think we'd almost need to have at least $1 million in its own VC fund, and then go from there. And that would just be separate from everything else to allow it to grow over time. So we're a bit away from anything like that. That's again, you don't want to put you don't want to jump the gun with all these things. I would love to do that. I've actually thought of some different things that would be really cool to kind of work on that, and also would give back to the communities of DeFi. But we're just not quite there yet. Quite frankly, we need to get our feet under us and growing on our own, and then we can start kind of tapping into that little industry over time. All right. Bran has turned our AMA questions channel into a soccer channel. That's Let's see here.
Sorry. USA are playing Wales at the minute, and USA just conceded. So thought I'd troll the Americans, but then I realized my boss is American, so that's probably not a good idea. So Shib, Madeira Alex says, is there any update on the decks?
Not yet. So I'm looking to get some information on there as well to see when we can start tapping into that stuff. But as soon as I know and as soon as we know something, we'll let you guys know on that end.
Just to touch on that, really, we did have, a couple of dexes, designs that were made we just really weren't happy with, and it wasn't something we were willing to just settle with. I think the issues you have with dexes, you have to make sure that they are exceptionally different and outstandish compared to competition. And the options we were presented with just weren't suitable. So yeah, as Shib says, once we've got more on that, we'll let you guys know. But yeah, guys, if you've got any more questions, we're about 45 minutes in. Pretty good questions today. Feel free to drop them or raise your hand. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Let's see here. We've got Neiman still typing. It's like OX Clown. Other projects have similar tokens to PUSD. Would it be worth having an allocation in those to benefit from their volume, similar to how partners will be investing in our PUSD token. Uh, I don't know. So I'll go into that as well. One of the larger one out there that has a similar token to that, they have a lot of control over that stuff, and they're also, you know, maybe not the best to work with as people. So, for example, let's just say we wanted to drop $50,000 into another token that does something similar to ours. We can get that locked up one day. They'll not let us take it back, literally just for any reason or no reason, which is why we have our own, right? So that would make more sense to invest in our own via the different sources that we've kind of talked about a lot there. And then that's kind of why I've incorporated PUSD with the NFTs, and why it'll also eventually be incorporated with the vaults, because that'll be an intrinsic value of volume to that token pretty constantly. So yeah, I just, go free, man. What's the next thing planned after the NFTs? We got to focus on what we got going on, man. I'm tired of saying, okay, now we got this, now we got to wait for the next thing. I don't want to do that anymore. We got these things here right now. We got to build them up. We got to keep them going. We got to get them on a point that people want to be using them. So that's what's next here, is to really grow what we have going on already. Most of our roadmap's already out there. It's already been produced, and now it's live, right? So we really have to keep this thing going. I don't want a mindset of what's next, because then no one's ever happy. It puts a lot of stress on the team and on the dev team, and it also creates an environment for a no chance of success for all the things that we've already built, right? So that's my answer to that, is we got to build and work on what we've already got set up here. Of course, we have ideas for the future, but I'm not going to get everyone excited for something down the road when we have a lot good working with us right here and now.
To be fair, I sort of agree on the aspect where I think there'll be a lot more benefit to PTX and XShares if we spent more time building them up rather than adding more moving parts. I think it comes to a sort of, there's a limit on how many moving parts you can just continuously add to an ecosystem, but we have a lot of things coming. We will be launching on a new deck soon. That should be coming at the start of December. And as I said, we've got a couple of other things in the pipeline. But yeah, I agree. I think the main focus should be on growing XShares, adding some incentives, building up PTX and building up the current ecosystem rather than trying to add new things just for the sake of it. I feel like we'll be a lot stronger in a couple of months with the ecosystem packed out with how it is currently, rather than just saying, hey, let's add this for the sake of it. So I feel like we're in a good spot, a good foundation to build from. But yeah, for sure, 100%. Another thing is we are adding farms. I think that'll be one of the next update to the decks. Completely forgot about that, actually. We are quite aware of the low liquidity, which is annoying because we have been adding liquidity. Well, we did that injection. I think it was a couple of months ago now. So yeah, we've lost a lot of liquidity, which is fine. It's not the end of the world. We're not at a dangerous point, but we will be adding farms to sort of bolster that, so we can have a thicker liquidity pool, so people can stop getting stressed out over $1,000 sales or whatever. But like I said, look, once we have them incentives added, which can actually have backing, and we can actually grow XShares into, a real revenue share model. Now, that will be way better than saying, hey, we're going to promise you X amount a day, and then in 2 weeks we say, hey, oh God, we can't afford to pay out today, and then the entire ecosystem just comes crashing down. So I'm really excited. I mean, there's nothing better than having great foundations. The really, really good thing is look, everything we're releasing, if we didn't have the delays, we would have had 2 absolutely flawless releases. And I'm talking the vaults had hardly any issues upon launch, nothing that couldn't be hot fixed in, literally 30 seconds. and neither did the NFT launch. Okay, there was a 10-minute delay because of multi-sig transactions and whatnot, but once it actually went live, it's working smooth. It's working as it should. Everything's minting as it should. All the dev stuff on our end, such as the receiver contracts and the distribution contracts, they all work. They're all audited. So now we've got really, really good foundations to sort of build from them. The Adam it's not it's fine. We did have to update some UI. But yeah, we've been really lucky. I know we've spent the last 3 weeks sort of being a bit pissed off about the development side, but they were there today. They were there, they sorted everything out, and if we can keep that consistent and we can keep that with updates and releases, and I think it's very important, and it goes back to that mentality point as well, right? If you're sitting there and you've got all these great ideas, but you can't rely on your dev team to produce them, then that just goes into a situation where you're batting ideas around to your team, like the ideas, like me, Wok, Shib, Adam, and whoever else who's in the meetings or the calls, and we go, yeah, let's push that for an update. That'd be a great addition. And then you haven't got that reliability. That's where the problems lie. So hopefully, with the things we've been happening in the last 2 weeks, keep that consistent, keep that going, and then when we have updates, fixes, UI improvements, that's exactly what we are excited for. So hopefully it continues going the way it was. Yeah, and I think what I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna say blunt if I'm honest. We couldn't just say, hey, rewards start from today for XShares. It'd be literally impossible. If we did that, it literally goes into a ponzonomic phase where we are just essentially waiting on new mints to pay out the older mints, and so forth. And then we're already in negative equity in regards to the mints. Realistically, rewards are reliant based on how much is there to trade with. If we don't have many mints, which is fine, it's not the end of the world. It just means the reward pool will be smaller, right? And that goes for everything, for legendaries, for the OG passages. But it's obviously what we're going to be working on as is incentives and additional things to add to the NFTs to give them further value. So we've got that core passive income, right? And now we've got to go, hey, what can we add around that to build them out? Yes, all of the rewards are paid out in PUSD. Maybe there'll be additional rewards in the future, who knows? But at the current time, yes, they're all paid out in PUSD.
All right. Let's let them keep typing up there. We are now 55 minutes in, so it's been a great AMA so far. We'll make sure nothing else pops up in the chats here. Then we'll kind of get working on some of the things that we're doing here on our end, of course. Make sure we haven't missed anything that just kind of worked its way into the general chat either. Don't see anything there. But Alex is still typing away, so we'll just kind of give this a couple of seconds. If there's a month that investments do great and we make a high percentage return, it all gets paid out. Yes, so Madiera, it's the exact thing that I put out there in the announcement, where 50% of the profits go to the rewards, 30% compounded, 10% back to the token via an LP and or buybacks, and then 10% to the treasury. That's if you make $1 billion or $1. It doesn't really matter. That percentage is how it's going to be worked in with the rewards. There's no well, if we make a minimum of 10 grand, then we're just good and we're going to keep the rest of that. There's none of that going on. It goes right into that same distribution that I just laid out there, so that it does make the most sense, because quite frankly, it's really something for you guys, right? So anyone who's invested in it, it's designed to benefit the NFTs, primarily also benefit the token, then also benefit the protocol itself. So that's kind of how the structure is laid out, and then we'll stick to that unless we ever say otherwise. But I have no intention of changing that. I think that's a pretty good system there. If anything, maybe like 60% for the rewards could be something to look into early on. I'll kind of have to see how these next 2 or 3 weeks go, but we'll kind of address that as we go. But I think that's what I laid out there would be the minimum of allocation directed right to the consumer, which is you guys who get the NFTs. Hell yeah. Yeah, that's also true, Brand. So I've to kind of go into the question earlier about someone who said they have some expenses coming up. This is not a short-term flip. We are not looking for someone who wants to invest in for 1 month and get 2% per day and be paid off in 23 days. That is not what we are, and that's not what we're going to be doing with the NFTs. So if you're unable or unwilling to hold these NFTs for a long period of time and accumulate through, good months and bad months, then I would not advise getting them right now. If you want to have a long-term goal here with these NFTs where you can, literally set and forget, right? Once you have them, they are what they are. Just go in there, claim them whenever you feel necessary, once a month, once every other week, whatever you want to do. And you just kind of want to have that going on. That's an indefinite kind of system. Then that could be for you, right? But I don't want to, we're not here to overpromise and underdeliver, right? So it's very challenging. Getting real money is very challenging. If it was easy, everybody would be a millionaire by now, and that's not the case. It is very stressful, and it takes some time and patience. So if you do not have the patience via your life circumstances or otherwise, I would definitely advise saying, hey, make sure you take care of yourself and your family first. I always tell people that. And anything that I do in DeFi, make sure you take care of yourself and your family first and foremost. And then if you believe in a team and a vision and a system, definitely feel free to invest at that point. And hopefully you are satisfied with those results, right? So that's kind of a good way to do it. That way you're not over leveraged at any point via your personal life and or your crypto life. And things can go pretty smoothly for everybody that is interacting, ideally. Now, I know it's not going to be the case. Someone's not going to take that advice, and that's okay there, but we will work this out the best that we can. All right, so the D-Bank question. Yeah, we definitely still have to look into that. To be totally transparent, I haven't really dove into that too much yet, just because we've been very, very busy to get these things live. But we can and we will look back into all of that there, and we'll try to see if we can get that sorted out as well. It's a good question.
Yeah, so shout out to Alex, and he's buying 11 XSHARES today. So massive shout out to you. That's great. And Sonny's just popped back into the chat. But yeah, so Clown, you've popped up on stage. How you doing today, man?
I have, mate. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. How you doing? How can we
I'll
help?
be honest, I still don't think you're feeling 100% because I kind of expected you to come on stage today, banging things, throwing things about and shouting. Because I'll be honest with everyone, if you'd have seen what's been going on the last few weeks with us trying to work with these developers and get everything out, it must be a weight off your mind, guys, to be honest, to get this out now.
Yeah, so if no one knows, we did have a small group of beta testers. And massive shout out to Clown. He held down the fort, getting these lists, getting these updates, even sneaking little updates in there that we probably should have paid extra for. So shout out to Clown there, getting
The devs hate me, I'm
sneaky,
sure.
Yeah, getting some sneaky UI upgrades for us, but yeah, Clown, we are, and it was sort of a little bit of a breath of fresh air once XShares went live, and it was like, okay, once the vault went live, it's like, okay, we set a time, it's finally been hit, they're finally live, and they went live very, very smoothly, and it's the same with XShares. So 100%, a lot of weight off our shoulders, and I'd especially say for Shib as well, because at the end of the day, we're all the team here, right? Me, you, Adam, Wox. But at the end of the day, this is Shib's baby. This is, his project. And as much as it's all of our projects and the entire communities, he's the guy that takes the reins and takes the fall, whenever things take a tumble. So as much as, the weight's off our shoulders, I'm pretty sure it's off his as well. But I said it before, look, as long as we can keep pushing, updates and the community are there, giving their ideas, giving their suggestions. And Clown, you can be one to, really solidify. We listen to the community. There were so many updates, and I was literally, we got to the point where I was like, guys, whatever you add to the list, we're just gonna add to the app, because the group of beta testers that we had was so useful. And the thing is, it was that there were, I don't think I ever saw a stupid suggestion. And I know that's a bit rude to say, but sometimes you do just get a lot of really dumb suggestions. And, I'm a moderator in a lot of communities, and sometimes I look at the chat and I'm like, how can you actually think that's a viable option? But with the group of beta testers we had, every single thing they were plowing out was a brilliant update, a brilliant feature, a brilliant addition. So, it's really, really, a really, really, great thing that happened. So a massive shout out to all the beta testers. You were really an asset getting everything sorted. And obviously Clown for, pretty much holding the reins there as well.
Yeah, totally. We had so much help from the beta testers. Pretty much like anything we've ever done with releases, the community's had like a massive input. So
yeah,
and
for
I know
sure.
sometimes the delays sort of take the wind out your sails a little bit, don't they? But the amount of community members we've got here, I mean, we might not have that many holders, but I think everyone who's here now is totally behind you guys. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that. And as for me not being energetic or anything, I'm still actually like fully deaf in one ear. So like my equilibrium and whatever is really, really off. So I can't really judge like how enthusiastic I'm being, or how loud I'm speaking. So I'm really a bit off balance at the minute. So hopefully my hearing will come back at some point soon. Because it's very annoying not being able to hear out of one ear. Yeah, I mean, it really does have its perks though, because I just face my left ear towards my fiance now. So when she complains at me for not doing the dishes and stuff, really, really helps. He's had to feed a spider.
She's not in the room right now, is she?
No, she's not. But I'm probably shouting because I can't hear myself, so she probably heard that anyway. But hey ho. But no, look, I'll speak for everyone on the team. We are really, happy and grateful with how patient people were being. Everything's here now, so if you are looking to get yourself an XShare, it will be a true revenue NFT. It's something that's an ever-growing project. It's not something that's, hey, here's a profile picture, buy it, and hopefully we'll make you money. It's something we're going to constantly work on. It's something we're going to grow throughout the community and, throughout the entire project. And as, Shib rightfully said, we're not just going to keep throwing new tools into the mix. We need to focus on the assets and the tools that we've currently got, build upon them, grow the ecosystem, and, add things that can make PTX and make, XShares better. I don't really quote PUSD too much, because PUSD is one of them things, right, that it'll grow over time when the project grows. I mean, the price will go up when we have to buy it, when people want to buy it, and obviously we can use it in the future for liquidity as well. But yeah, I'm personally super excited for farms. I feel like we'll have a bit more information on what sort of farms we will have. But I think it will be really, really exciting to bolster that LP a little bit, reward people, and sort of make the PTX floor a bit more stable. Before we wrap the AMA, I'll just touch up on that a bit. We were obviously discussing, it's like, well, we're at a point where we can't just keep throwing investment funds into the LP, because it does just get eaten, especially if the price doesn't go up, or you know how it works, right? So we didn't want to keep, not that we don't want to add to the LP, but we need to find efficient ways to add to the LP rather than just taking money from one place and moving it to another place. and then that not being able to be used in the future. I.e., before when we took out $30,000 from the investment funds, added it to the LP. Essentially, that's now gone, right? So we're looking at ways to integrate things into the ecosystem at an efficient way rather than just panicking and doing things, on a whim. But Shib's the money man. Shib's thinking that he's always 2 steps ahead. But yeah, guys, honestly, a massive thank you. We're excited that XShares have released. Could they have sold a bit faster? Did we expect a few more to sell on the initial launch? Of course we did. But hey, look, now it's our turn to really focus on barreling the hatches, or I'm really bad on my analogies today. Battling the hatches, or whatever it is, whatever the pirates do. Focusing on growing them and spreading the word and building in them incentives and adding to the the current ecosystem to really grow them. But that's obviously our job. You guys' job is to do your best to support the community, help spread the word, and do what you guys do best. And yeah, massive thank you all for turning out to the AMA today. But Shib, I'll pass it back to you.
Yep. So if that is all, thank you guys. Thank you all for joining into this AMA here. Kind of got a little cut off there because Brand's been talking. Lots of good things working on this end as well. So just want to say, hey, thank you guys all again here for joining on this weekly AMA to go over all the XShares. So glad that they got live. Thank everyone here for helping out. We have quite a good little audience in here in the AMA, as well as plenty of good questions. Of course, keep asking your questions. Ask them away in the AMA Questions Weekly channel for the next AMA, or just simply tag us in the general chat and we'll go over each and every one of them as well. So definitely appreciate you guys for joining us. Thank you to the mod team. Thank you to the core team. Thank you to the community here again for joining us here on this AMA, and we will catch you guys all very, very soon. Peace out, fam.
Cheers, guys.